To introduce themselves in alphabetical order. Let's start with Feli.
Hello everyone, I'm Feli. Gender preferred pronoun she or her.
Nggak ada.
Okay. Observer OpenGF, number 1, mute yourself. Number 2, if you want to watch the Open Grand Final, it's in the breakout room, not here. You're in the wrong room. Okay, next, Hagi.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Hagi. Preferred gender pronoun will be he or him. Have a good debate.
Okay, thank you. Next, Tasya.
Hi, I'm Natasha Mariana. Gender pronoun she or they. I'm gonna be panel in this round.
Thank you, Tasya. Last but not least, Stephanie.
Hi everyone, I'm Stephanie. Gender pronoun she or they. Good luck.
All right. Okay. So before we start the Novice Grand Final, different ground rules. So number 1, for observers, yeah, I know that you are supporting some of the teams here, and I know that all of you want to be supportive. But instead of typing here, or HH, that spam the chat box, can use the reaction of clap or anything you want based on your Zoom device. So to make sure that if some of the teams or some of the speakers prefer the POI through chat box, we want to make sure that the chat box is not spammed with here, HH, or anything else. Okay, so that's the first one. Secondly, for each speaker, before you start the debate, please check your sound. That's the first one. And second of all, of course, state your gender preference and also the POI method preference. If you forget to state that, we're going to assume that the POI method preference is by default through chat box. Last of all is this one, because we're going to talk about something that might be sensitive for everyone. And one of the judges are Stephanie is the equity officer. So please be mindful, everyone, okay, to make sure that there is no generalization, there's no underestimation, or any other attributes that can be hurting to a certain identity. Okay, so that's a quick reminder for all of the debaters in this room. Okay, but before that, for the opening government, are you consented to be recorded? Opening government, Wonderland, do you consent to be recorded?
Yes, we are.
Okay, what about opening opposition?
Yes.
Okay, closing government? CG?
I don't I'm the first speaker and I don't consent.
Okay, second speaker? Hello, second speaker? What about closing up?
Closing. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, first speaker didn't give consent, but second does.
Oh, okay. What about government whip? Second speaker, CG?
Second speaker consented.
Okay, so for committees, both not consent. So later on, please stop the recording when the members are speaking, yeah? Okay, without further ado, I would like to call PM to start the debate.
check, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Gender preference, she, her. PI preference just by through the chat box. And wait a sec, set my timer. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Judges, Indonesia is a very unique country, right? That include many ethnic groups which also have the tradition with their uniqueness. And also, we believe that we now living in the world and the era of the integration, in the era of collaborating each other, and also the value of unity of Indonesia itself. So we believe in this kind of a prevalence of close community in Indonesia, it hampered this kind of effort to unite unity of Indonesia, which is the value of Indonesia itself as a country that has different ethnic groups, right? And also it will also harm towards both of the people inside the community and also outside the community itself. So before jump to the argument, so how is the form of this prevalence of close community in Indonesia? So this kind of prevalence is like when, for example, we take example, for example, the Minangnis, for example, like they are especially the Minangnis men, for example, that should marry with also that hopefully marry with women Minangnis also. So therefore, their children will take the marga from their mom. So, and also the using a language in the workplace, for example, like also the closest into my place is that Mandailingness, for example, like they are in the workplace when they are spilling of tea in the canteen, for example, like they are talking with each other member of that ethnic groups only by their kind of language, but also that in that table there's also people outside of their community which is not understand their language. So jump to my argument. So firstly, how is this prevalence of close community will harm both of the actor inside this community and also outside of the community as the Indonesian people. So firstly, towards this towards the people that outside of this community. So this kind of prevalence, like they are feeling like they are not belonging to this kind of society. For example, like when they are working in the place when the majority is Mandailing, for example, but they want to engage with their partners, for example, with the whole community, but they when this kind of prevalence of close community that they are just talking in their language and also there is no one complain about it, that they are feeling like they are not belongs to this community. So we think that this is so harmful. This is so harmful because we believe that this Indonesia is we should encourage for the interaction and also for the changing of mind and also culture, for example, for each other individual, right? And also the second is how about the people inside this community also? So people inside this community with let's take the people that they are also wants to have other communication with other, like other relationship with others outside these communities, that these people will stuck inside the mindset that you should just only marry by the with this person, for example, and it is it is also a hamper for the development of this community itself, because they are just knowing each other between their communities, and also make generation by their community by their community only. And we believe that this is harmful, because at the end of the day, these communities will not just developing, and also the individuals itself inside the community will also feel pressure, because they need to fulfill the standard of their ethnic groups, for example, their communities. So they just still belongs to this community, right? But they actually wants to progressing, for example, wants to know each other. So we believe that this is harmful on that point. And secondly, how this harm also hamper the development of our nation, Indonesia, right? So with all of that harms that I said before, that this is limiting the feel of belongings, and also the effort to unite this Indonesia, right? Because we believe that Indonesia has different culture, each individuals, and also each community has different interests, also different different cultures. But we believe when this kind of host community is still prevalent in status quo right now, that this will hamper this development of Indonesia as a nation, because at the end of the day, because they don't feel belonging to each other, they can collaborate, for example, like for example, that government need to conduct an event, for example, for like taking a lot of ethnic groups and a lot of communities. But when they are not feel this kind of belonging each other, and because of this prevalence of community, it will hamper this event, for example, and also this and also in the bigger impact that it will also creates a border, each communities. And we believe that this is not what we as Indonesia wants, because we value the uniqueness value of ours is that the unity, and we fight for the unity until now, because we also experience a lot of obstacles, for example, that threatening our identity as Indonesia, right? So we believe that this kind of prevalence, so we regret this prevalence of host community in Indonesia, because it hampers the feels of belonging, and also the development as a nation itself. That's what why we proud to propose. Thank you.
Right, I thank you, PM. Next, LO.
Judge, can you give me around 1 minute, because I need to go to toilet? Only 1 minute.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Okay,
Sorry.
I'm going to toilet as well. Hello, I'm back. Is the leader of opposition here or not yet? Not yet, yeah.
Yes, not yet. He's on the way here.
Yeah, all right, okay.
Check, am I audible? Check.
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, nice. Okay, now I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Just don't buy the case that explained by the team opening government because they already set a wrong setup at the very first place. Talking about closed culture communities, we're not only talking about the example on how Minangese only married a Minangese, but these closed culture communities, we're talking about the tribe who live in the middle of jungle or in a village that they reject modernization, they reject to live with any other people in the city. That's the exact actor that we should discuss in this debate, whether we should introduce them with any other people or not. Therefore, the example or the setup that being explained by the team of opening government is actually wrong at the very first place. But second of all, let's just assume it's true, and also let's just count the argument, which is the reason why they support this motion is because they don't want to hamper the development to this tribe and also to Indonesia. Judge, if we can prove to you why by using their case, it just hamper not only hamper the development, but it will just endanger their identity and also a danger where they live even worse, we should take this debate. And now moving to my substantive and as to why we as the team opening opposition want to oppose this motion. Why it's better to let them exclusify themselves. We don't want to make them interact with any other people. It's okay to let them exclusify themselves in the middle of jungle or in a village, for example. Two reasons. First of all, unlike any other people, this kind of tribe is already happy and also comfortable with their own tribe culture and also lifestyle. What happened under the case, if you use the case of team opening government, if you make them mingle with any other people, we open up their identity to any other people. First, it will just disturbing their own life. What kind of disturbance that we expect? First of all, at the moment we open up their identity to any other people, we believe it is very bad because we let any other people know their existence at the very first place. And what will happen if we let them mingle with themselves? The thing that we need to understand is there's actually a big gap of lifestyle with this kind of tribe and also normal people like us who live in the city. And second of all, at the moment we let this kind of tribe mingle with us, for example, this will be bad because right now our lifestyle as a people who live in the city is also toxic at the very first place. So what will happen? If we make them mingle to us, we start to introduce them with new beliefs and new system, new culture. For example, we introduce them to capitalism. We introduce them to a materialistic world. And for example, that they need to fulfill a multiple standard as a society. For example, they need to have a houses. They need to have a high position job. We introduce them the culture of hustle culture. We introduce them competitiveness and any other thing which something that they never think before when they live in the middle of jungle and also their culture or their lifestyle. We think this is very bad. So what will happen if we use the case of team government? First of all, at the moment we open up them and we introduce them, they will reject us as a human. They will be very defensive because right now you are trying to change their comfortability of their lifestyle at their daily basis. They will be so much defensive to us. First, because we introduce, they will reject us as a human, or in order to protect their identity, in order to protect themselves, they will attack us at the very first place because that's the only thing they know in order to protect their identity. Therefore, I think this is very bad because at the moment we tap into their place to live, we start to introduce them a new belief, we give them a new expectation. I think this is very bad because we change their lifestyle at the very first place, which is something that they are already comfortable to begin with. But second of all, why this is also bad? Because right now, at the moment we open up their identity and the place they live, we just endanger them even more, and to the extent they will lose the place they live and also their identity at the very first place. How it's going to happen? Let me mechanize it for you. First of all, first of all, something that we need to notice is usually this kind of tribe who live in the middle of jungle is there are usually live in a beautiful place. For example, like suku laut, they live in a clear ocean or sea. For example, they preserve the culture and also they preserve the environment. At the moment we open up, I think the eyes of the world will start to tap in and see the place they live. I think at the moment we open up, this will be very bad, because right now people start to take a look of the beauty where the place that they already take care for a long time, for example. And second of all, not only people, any other company will also start to tap in and commercialize it. And I think at the moment these things happen, this will come with a lot of cost. For example, the example that already happened. For example, we take the example of Bali. For example, at first, Bali is a beautiful place where the people live happily ever after in Bali. But at the moment, a company start to tap in, people start to see the beauty of this place. This will be bad, because right now there are a lot of companies start to tap in, build their company, build housing at there. First of all, what happened is this company will move the place where the Balinese tribe live, move to any other place where the strategic place is used to make their own business. For example, I think this will be bad, because right now you move the origin tribe you take away the place where this origin tribe live. And second of all, you as the company will also attack their religious place. For example, in Bali, beach is something important for them, because beach is usually used for their ritual ceremony, for example. But right now, what happened? Beach is used as the recreation. People use it as something that is used for having a party, for example. I think this is very disrespect, and also it also attack the sacredness of this kind of area. Therefore, their identity will also lose at the end of the day. But third of all, this company, they don't understand about this culture. Therefore, what happened in Bali? This company, they replicate their Hinduism god, for example, as a ceremony, as a souvenir. I think this is also bad, because right now you also attack their belief, you attack their religion as something that you commercialize it, you take profit on that. I think this is very dangerous. This is very bad, because right now you take away their identity and make something in order to get money. This is very cruel of the team government if they want to oppose this, if they want to support this motion. Therefore, under these two reasons, we proud to oppose this motion. We want to let this tribe to exclusify themselves and place in the place they live and live happily ever after. I close my case.
All right, I for that speech. Before we continue on DPM, please be mindful on the time. Remember that once 7 minutes and 20 seconds have elapsed, despite the importance behind your ideas, we will not take any notes at all. Okay, so next DPM.
Am I audible and clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Wait. Okay, I will start my timer. My gender pronoun preference is just going to be she or her, and POI preference is going to be just turning your mic on, please. I need your POI, and yeah, I will not see the chat box. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we believe that the contextualization of the opposition was very light. And for example, because we think that it is talking about Indonesia, where we are united in Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, for example, to prevent from being conflicting towards each other. And also we think that there are so many identities to actually also be hold right under your side, because we think that if the opposition was trying to actually glorify this kind of identity, and then they have to prove why actually the identity of national Pancasila and Bhinneka Tunggal Ika is not very important to be struggle under their side. But secondly, we think that let's take some basic logics under their side. They said that it is going to endanger their identity. It is going to actually make them want to change, and they are not going to actually have enough coping system with. We think that the first response is going to be, actually identity promotion happens if you have the mediation, right? Better if you teach this language, if you teach this culture, in order for your conservation of identity of culture is actually by promotion, right? To promote your culture, your language, there should be a mediator in order to make people feel attracted. People want to actually feel this is very valuable. For example, in order for people to buy your souvenir, etc., exactly because people conduct interaction, exactly because people teach each other, because exactly because people want to, for example, convey the messages and etc. We think that this kind of interaction, in order for them to get to know each other and learn how to respect, exactly happen under our side, because we open the border. We don't want to actually impose the exclusivity only under our side, because we think that there should be more people that value our identity. There should be more people that are attracted to conserve our identity and culture. So therefore, we think that this kinds of endangering their identity, etc., is also going to be neglect. Is also going to be not credited, because also secondly, we think that this is talking about the status quo, right? We think that this kinds of the lack of, for example, resources happens because because they have imposed the exclusivity under only of their culture. They don't want to actually have the curiosity to actually make some realization of their curiosity, for example, how to learn the globalization, how to actually, for them to actually fit this era, because they are going to be endangered. This is what makes them comfortable. But also, when they said that they have been so comfortable, it will only disturb, then they will attack us and etc. We think that first response, exactly, culture shock happen because your lack of experience, right? Because your lack of knowledge. So it means that even if culture shock happens, we think that it's okay for them, because at the end of the day, with this globalization, it is something inevitable. Moreover, we are talking about Indonesia, but Indonesia is also the part of global worlds, right? We think that this kinds of, like digitalization and also is it we cannot actually, it is something inevitable. We think that this also better for us to actually make them faster to actually fit themselves with these kinds of changes. But secondly, we think that what makes them exactly because they haven't been getting the chance to actually know what more comfortable for them, right? It only makes them feel that they are enough, but exactly because they don't have the chance to actually know, for example, various chances of being more comfortable, right? So they were only generalizing this debate. And also when they were talking about beauty standard, hostile culture, working culture, we think that first response pressure also happens under your side when you think that you only going to impose, for example, a beauty standard also in your community, and also you are also going to impose, for example, getting standard that is very clear, that was very clear and the infos, right? We think that this kinds of pressure also happen on the other side. But more than that, we think curiosity is actually intrinsic part of humanity, right? We think that they also impose the specific limitation, for example, in order for them to actually have the chance to interact to outsiders. So we mean that they are also going to be to feel uncomfortable under their side. But more than that, we think exactly if you open up the discussion, if you open up the chances to get to know each other, people can try to learn respect. Diversity is very beautiful in order for them to get to know, and there will be wider options. For example, like let's say they want to talk about beauty standard, there are so many diverse beauty standard they are going to know. For example, Korean beauty and also African American is going to be respected anyway, because it is an era of respecting to each other, right? It is an era of collaboration. We think that these kinds of, for example, beauty standard also happen under their side because it is very limited, and there should be a more narrowed options under their side. But also when we're talking about and also some justification under our side is because the more you are imposed to only learn certain values, the more potential you are going to perceive that it is only the right thing to do, and it is the only right thing to actually maintain, for example. And this leads to a feeling of superior that my first speaker has already touched. We think that this exactly is the starting line of how people behave in such racist attitude, for example, because how can they even learn to respect if it is hard for them to actually fulfill their curiosity in order for them to get to know each other? We think that ethnic centric will happen on the other side. If we want to for example take some real instances. For example, take a look of how Yugoslavia split up because of this egocentrism. Balkan has so many problematic conflicts between ethnics, and it's very hard for them to actually be united because exactly it is very late for them to actually respecting to each other. And we think that this kind of egocentric will actually be very tangible on the result, because bias will actually be imposed because they are only used to these values that they have been taught since childhood, and etc. They only want to approve their feeling, their knowledge, which is limited and very narrow, and they are going to devaluing the outsiders that they seem as strange and they perceive as something weird. You create a sense of belonging as if you only belong to this community and identity, and no feeling of belonging to other identity. Then there should be, we think that this empathy, for example, in order for you to actually for example, support the national growth of Indonesia, and it is very hard for government to actually, for example, manage these kinds of cultures, these kinds of community, exactly because they have so many rejections, because this prevalence make them feel it is okay for them to actually against for example, against the effort of government to unite us. For example, we set up differences as if people who are having different interests or someone weird and should not be respected, for example. Exactly. So we are talking about Indonesia. Conflict happens because of misunderstanding, and there is no willingness to actually relate to your feeling, to outsider feeling that is very should be diverse and should be respected, for example. So we think that this kinds of the harms that being brought by the opposition also happens on their side. That's why we are very proud to propose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you for the DPM to close the opening layer DLO.
Check, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, wait. Okay. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Judge, we don't understand why then the moment we don't regret this kind of prevalence of close culture communities means that we are opposing the idea of unity and integration in our current status quo right now, right? Because it seems like the opening government is too judgmental towards all the proposal that has been brought by my first speaker previously, right? We say that yes, integration and unity is very important in the current status quo, but we say the form of integration should not always only in the form of acculturation, for example. We say the way you accept each other without regretting the prevalence of certain community is already fulfilling the real philosophy of unity, right? We say it is not only about you are marrying like another race, or you are marrying someone from another community, then you just can fulfilling this kind of idea of integration, right? That is why we said the integration is not as narrow as what the opening government provides to you. That is why our proposal is still valid until this second. But second of all, on how they say to you that how the moment we don't regret this kind of prevalence of close culture communities, it is actually form of hampering the development of Indonesia, because simply there will be no sense of belonging within each other. We say that development is not only on the basis of interacting with another ethnic or another community, for example. We said that development and improvement of certain country can also be achieved, like for example through education and achievement, right? Moreover, the opening government never mechanize and never tell you why then development should exclusively coming from acculturating with another community, for example. Moreover, second of all, they also never tell you what is the significant bad impact created by this close community, which forced them to regret the existence of this kind of close culture communities, right? That is why we say that all the proposal coming opening government is only comes to an assumption without any further explanation on why that it is very important for us to regret the prevalence of close culture communities. Now let's move on to the first issues in this debate, in which we believe that why then the identity of Indonesia, the identity of our country will be better exercised under our case. We say, first of all, the moment we are not regretting the prevalence of close culture communities, it is actually not a way of decreasing the diversity or decreasing the value of identity of our countries, right? Because we say that diversity is very inevitable. It is not always about interacting with other ethnic, but the fact that this close community access in the status quo is already a new means of community diversity, right? It is also a new means of a community that we should appreciate, for example. Moreover, we say the existence of close culture communities is not giving any significant harms, especially towards the outsiders, right? Because they only interact with inside of them, and there is no significant bad impact because they are not because they haven't got that negative impact coming from the modernization, right? Therefore, we say by not regretting, it is actually form of strengthening parts of the identity, though, because we say that, for example, like suku mente, which is avoid modernization, especially to strengthen the religion, right? And of course, we said that we should not generalize that modernization or globalization is always good stuff, because the moment you introduce them to modernization, you can actually introduce them to the toxicity of imperialism, of capitalism, for example, or about the individualism and the materialistic world, which they believe it is bad. That is why, as the government, we should be very wise, especially in giving the rights for our citizens to exercise their personal rights and their personal belief, as long as it doesn't harm other people, just like what these close culture communities like suku mente or suku anak dalam do currently in our current status quo right now, right? We say everybody has their personal rights and relation to actually exercise it, for example. That is why we should accept them as how we accept another means of ethic. That is why under our case, the identity is actually better, because we are actually strengthening certain community under our country without actually harming them or making them, for example, giving a rejection or giving attack back towards us because we are doing something wrong with them, for example, introducing them to the toxicity of the modernization, for example. But second of all, why then it is very important for us to not regretting the prevalence of close culture communities, because it is still part or form of protections towards the toxicity of modernization, like what my previous speaker have told to you. We say this is particularly harmful the moment you force them to actually directly face the modernization, because first, those kind of tribe or those community will not survive because they are not used to it, for example. Means that you are trying to achieve the identity of your country by creating a cause of your own society, which is the cause of your of another tribe in your country being suffered because they are forced to do something they're not used to it, for example. But second of all, you will make them very defensive, for example, because talking about city society that is very individual and egoistic, which India will shock them. So in the end, the moment you force this kind of suku anak dalam or suku mente, for example, to force them to go to metropolitan city, they will be unable to compete. In the end, will add another burden and another problems in the current status quo right now. That is why we say it is not strategic to actually force them towards the modernization. If they told to you, if the opening government tells you on how globalization is very important and digitalization is very important for them, we said no. For this kind of tribe, for this kind of suku anak dalam or suku anak mente, those kind of globalization, digitalization, or gentrification, they never need those kind of stuff, because what they need is that because they already feel content with their life, for example. We say it is okay the moment they already feel content with their life, for example, they can meet or always interact with their family, for example. We said that it is already enough. We say the opening government has no right to actually generalize that the purpose of every tribe that is existing in our country is actually the same. You cannot generalize that all of them having the purpose to actually having a good jobs and building a family in the city, for example, because somehow for this kind of tribes, the purpose of their life is the moment they feel happy with it and they feel content with it. And we say that not all places in need of this kind of gentrification, like what the opening government told to you, right? We say the moment you are regretting this kind of prevalence, means that you're actually incentivizing another third party to actually tap into their places, for example, or using those kind of profit-oriented organization to actually build facilities, for example, in their suku laut living places, for example, which in the end will harm it, and you will destroy their places, which is their only one way to live, right? Because currently, those kind of tribe, they actually the product of the government failure, for example, that is not able to give your attention, that is not able to actually reach out with them since the beginning, right? Which makes them exclusify themselves until the seconds. That is why you should give them rights to actually have their own identity and let them live happily in their places as a form of compensation and payback after all the failure and all the rejection that you have done for them since the beginning, which make them so exclusifying themselves. That is why please vote for the team opening opposition. Thank you.
I think that the deputy leader of UP for that speech to open the closing half. GM, please.
Okay. So yeah, I don't have any preferred gender pronoun. If POI, just send it through the chat, I'm probably gonna stop halfway and ask if there's any POI there. So just like look out for that moment. Okay. Starting my speech.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, if you want to be, I just give it through the chat, and my gender pronoun is he or him. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. We think that the opening debate wasn't exclusive at all, right? For just talking about the tariff on, just talking about the cultural differences without analyzing the real impacts on the individual from those cross communities, and never explain the likelihood anyway. They never explain what will happen in individuals when they have to face the real world one day, which will just torture them and they won't be able to survive if all their life they were being surrounded by only the beauty of the world of life. Well, we made it clear that those people will just be vulnerable, racist, close-minded, etc., etc. And we already explained to you panels the likelihood of how will those people from close communities to be close-minded and standardized in how they see the beauty in the real world, right? The close community are always being seen as minorities and getting discriminated by the outside of the world. We are also able to portray you how our world looks like, where people will be open-minded, adaptive, and open to differences in the real world. We already explained to you how will they become so because of how the close community make them become habituated with their own bubbles. They will just meet the people who are alike or similar to them in such a language, race, skin, culture, etc. So we believe that this is not normal and not okay, and we want if some of them can get out of the situation, they should do to make their life better and to be open to differences and make our country Indonesia to be a better country, right? So what differentiates our side as PG from OG? There are two things. First, how their identity is not aligned with emotion, and secondly, how their lack of harm analysis. Panels, first about how their identity is not aligned with emotion. Panels OG is here regretting the cross communities as a whole, right? Which is so wrong at all costs. We say that we know that it will be hard for people in those communities to suddenly just adapt with outsiders, right? So we're not taking it for granted. So what we want is to give them a time, and what we regret is the normalization or the prevalence of the cross communities, right? So what we want is to at least lessen the cross communities so the Papuans won't just get hurt and being concerned everywhere, because people will always see them as violent people who are harsh and hateful, right? But secondly, about how the case lacks of harm analysis. So they always said that it is harmful, right? But they never explain what kind of harm will happen and why is it so bad. Well, we already taught you the clear harm, where they will be close-minded, racist, and etc., and they will have a high emotional vulnerability and also won't be able to live in the real world. We say that the world is rough, and why we as people should be tougher to survive. We think those people who live in close community are being looked for so long in their comfort bubble, so they will be likely to fail to survive in the real world when they have to face discrimination, competition, and being shamed by others in the real world, which will be so much harder and tougher, since all this time they were always surrounded by praises and validation from the communities. That is our identity, and that we believe that we already give you much better harm analysis with so many angles. So let's talk about OO case here. So OO just talk a lot about nature without actually tell us what is and gonna be happening in those people individually in the scenario when they have to face the real world, which is the key point of this debate, right? Because the key actor is not the beauty of life or nature or Bali, but it is about how will they face the hell of life, how they can go through the bad phase of life. And we never get why all cases have any exclusivity in this debate anyway, right? But three rebuttals towards OO. First, how about they said that those people will be introduced to hustle culture, and secondly, how about they say that those people will live exclusively and peacefully in their communities, and lastly, about how they say that unity will be achieved in their side. So first thing first, how they say that those people will be introduced to hustle culture. Exactly, people. The problem is everything that I mentioned is about the hustle culture, the competition, and the other evil things in the real world is the problem, right? We think that is just being delusional if they said that those people, if they are from close community, then they won't face those kind of things ever, right? Because these kids are growing up, and for now, maybe they won't ever face those things if they keep running in their own circle community. But in the future, one day, when they have to work in the workplace to go to universities, they will meet so many people outside of their communities, and how will they adapt in such harsh world if they never do so, right? That's the beauty of the communities. The beauty of Pulau Bali will be useful for them to survive in the real world. No panels. But secondly, there are arguments about that those people will live exclusively and peacefully in their communities. Panels, we think that here always playing so unrealistic by thinking that they will only face the same things over and over again all their life, right? As we already said, we think that no one can run away from the real world. One day when they have to work and run for their own life, they will meet so many people from universities or workplace. They will see so many people that are different from them. They are different from their communities, and they have to adapt. And in their work, they never give us any solution on how those people from cross communities will adapt, right? But lastly, how they say and how they're being so dismissive about what's going on in the world by saying that unity will be achieved in their side. Fairness, unity won't happen in their side, because we think that there is no unity if some people from those cross communities are not being accepted by outsiders or the other part of society in Indonesia, right? So in another analysis, this is not the fault is not on those cross communities, but also the outsiders, right? In their side, those cross communities maybe won't discriminate each other, but they are the one that will be discriminated, right? That is the logic. The community from the SRU of Indonesia will be cornered or dipojokkan because there is an assumption that they are extremely good or conservative, right? While the comparison in our side, if those people are eager to walk out from the cross community, from their bubble, they can change the way people think about them. They can show who they truly are, that they are not that evil, and they're also humans who have humanities, that they have heart and have dignity. And therefore, they will get the respect that they deserve, and the unity will be achieved, unlike what happens in the opposition side. So in their side, unity won't happen at all. And now let's move on to CO. So we don't get any of the explanation that made by the CO, right? Listen here, we have a problem that's prevalent in the status quo where we alienate each other, and by having much discussion, we will be able to see each other as humans and not different beings, right? It's just, I think that all of CO's case is just derivative from all, and they're still talking about how in their side discrimination one exists and value which have no exclusivity at all in this debate, because they also never explain to us why their case is exclusive, right? I won't take any PR because I have still a lot of stock. So one rebuttal to the only argument that we think is apple to our case in our side, right? It's about how CO talk about that people won't hate each other in their side. Fairness, let's see. If the hate doesn't exist as what the CO trying to bring or trying to say in this debate, then we say then there won't be people getting shame of their skin color, of their body, of their physical features in Indonesia, right? The Chinese people won't be called as stupid or talking anymore. The label of how the Papuans are violent won't happen or exist anymore, right? It means that the hate is still going on, discrimination still exists a lot in Indonesia. So we think that if all say so, or is being totally dismissive of what is going on in the world, they are being totally dismissive of the discrimination that is going on in Indonesia. Yes, we want these people in the outside to be more open-minded and have no much discussion and show who those people from the cross communities, to show who they really are and why they are also great. They can also discuss and about they can also discuss about everyday things that people talk about. They also like K-pop. They also like the things that the normal people like, right? So they won't be labeled by the discriminative people anymore and won't be treated as minorities anymore, because they are not minorities. They are normals. They are humans, and therefore we believe that those people should get out of their bubble, and we don't regret their presence as a whole, but we regret the prevalence, and we never been so proud to propose. Thank you.
Right, I thank the government whip for that speech. Now to crystallize CO and also to close this novice grand final, I call upon the up whip here.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
We'll start my speech. Wait. I don't have any preference on my gender pronouns, so you can call me whatever you want. And for PLI, you can just chat me in the chat box. And I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels. Let's see the truth in Indonesia itself. Panels. Let's see the truth in Indonesia itself. Yes, CG said that Indonesia is such a beautiful country that has so many ethnic and so on and so forth. But we believe that that's not just all that, ladies and gentlemen. There's also another dark side of Indonesia that we have to face. For the example, the discrimination that has been going on. The discrimination towards other ethnic, towards other religion, or towards other race, ladies and gentlemen. They've never played in the worst case scenario, and they've never they're sugarcoating about how Indonesia is diverse and how the world is all about rainbows and butterflies, ladies and gentlemen. And before any of that, let's compare our side of the house with the other benches in this chamber. First of all, about the opening government side of the house, the only thing that coming from open government is about the unity of Indonesia, how we value the diversity and so on and so forth. We believe that the closed community itself coming from three kind of things, ladies and for the example, like the closed community from race, from religion, and from the ethnic itself. For the example, like how Chindos actually lives in the same neighborhood, and so on and so forth. We believe that, and we believe that is it justified for us to actually let them have the closed community? Because why? Three explanation on this. First of all, about the discrimination. The discrimination that has been going on to these people is actually there exists, ladies and gentlemen. For example, like if you're a Chinese and you went to public school, there it actually happens that people say that people mock you for being Chinese, and people actually have racism toward Chinese itself if you're going to the public school. That's why that's why parents in Chinese community itself wants to protect themselves from having the racism itself. And it's okay for the parents to actually make the children goes to all Chinese school and so on and so forth. And second of all, about the historical. Do you even know how this kind of closed community actually happened? This kind of closed cultural community actually happens because of the historical event itself. For the example, like how trigger warnings rape, how in 1998 Chindos in Indonesia are getting raped by people. This is why people actually justified for them to have a close to defend themselves, ladies and gentlemen, rather than hurting anyone. And they're in here are only defending themselves, not actually harming anyone, ladies and gentlemen. And this is why and the third of all is about the cultural. Why people want to save their culture itself. And this is why it's justified for them to have a close culture community, because cultural is something that's really precious in our country, Indonesia. People doesn't only live as Indonesian in here, but people also live as Sundanese, as Minangis, and other identity, ladies and gentlemen. The identity that they need to keep, because there are some people who thinks that it is really important for them to grow up as a Minangis and so on and so forth. And we have to actually respect their choice to become like that, ladies and gentlemen. Because why? Because it's not the government business to actually force someone to integrate with the others and so on and so forth. And we believe that actually, ladies and gentlemen, why this kind of culture? Let's take some example. For the example, like bombing of the church. The bombing of the church is happening because of people are integrating, ladies and gentlemen. And if people actually living in the same neighborhood, they won't really complain about the church and so on and so forth. And why is it more important for the government to actually talking about the sense of belonging rather than the security of people who has been oppressed? And why is it not okay for people to actually defend themselves without even hurting anyone? And second point, and about the CG. CG wants to have a progressive mindset and so on and so forth. CG wants to have a progressive mindset and so on and so forth. We believe that, for the example, like people who were born and raised in Indonesia itself, and for the example, like Chindos, they still actually can speak Indonesian after all, and they in their school they have been told about Bhinneka Tunggal Ika and so on and so forth. We believe that this kind of things will actually the progressive thing will actually coming in the future. Because why? Because people are getting mature, ladies and gentlemen. People will understand that the Bhinneka Tunggal Ika is actually important. And why is it still okay for them to have cultural to have a close culture communities? Because why? Because actually it's the children can take any racism, and we want children to have a beautiful childhood, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why it's justified for us. And no, thank you. And about and why is different and the progressive thing will actually happen as, for example, like, and if people going to the university, people will actually going to see other race, and they've already measured enough to not giving any stigma or stereotype to the other kind of things. And comparing our side to opening opposition. Opening opposition actually doesn't really understand about the context of this motion itself. They're talking about the tribe. It's not the right context for us to talk in this round, but we still engage with them anyway, ladies and gentlemen. And this is why. And the most important thing in this debate is actually how is it okay for people to have preference on how they defend themselves from the other world, and why and on how government actually how the government actually doesn't have any right to tell people to be integrated and not to become and to not have their ethnic still exist, ladies and gentlemen. This is why we are very.
All right, I thank the opposition whip for that speech. So that marks the end of the Novice Grand Final of USU Open 2021. Once again, congratulations for all Novice Grand Finalists for making it this far. So yeah, congratulations. And right now, please wait here. Do not go anywhere. And we'll get back to you as soon as possible. For the judges, let's see. Yeah, let's go to room E, breakout room E. I feel like room E is empty, so that we can discuss there. All right, see you there, judges.